Yeah, it's already busy here, which is awesome,
Lines were long.
Oh, yeah.
Especially at this time, in the morning. I think Saturday morning people are going to see in, but not ice fishing people. They're up and at it.
How long were the lines at the door this morning?
They went all the way up, down the hallway, and then up the skyway and back around.
Oh, my gosh.
Our first person was here by 5:30 this morning.
And that's a VIP entry.
The VIP
right?
entry, yep.
So the big surge will be at
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock today.
Yep.
Well, here we are, another episode of the Ice Team Podcast. We're coming at you from the St. Paul Ice Fishing and Winter Sports Show, one of my favorite events every year. This is the Super Bowl of ice fishing. We always joke about the Super Bowl of ice fishing. I got 3 awesome guests. I know you're going to recognize 2 of them right away. The Godfather himself, Dave Genz, Tackletary Tuma, one of the co-founders of this show. And then to my left here is Brandon Tucker. I've gotten to know Brandon over the last
10 years.
10 so years.
Yep.
Brandon is the man at this venue. He kind of oversees all the events and stuff going on at the RiverCentre, the Excel Center. I tell you what, when it's like the back call here, all the years, even with Smitty and everything, it's like, oh man, we need to call the guy when something needs to get done. That's him.
I'm the problem solver.
I called you this morning at 5:45. I'm sure he's like, Matt, for the love of Lord, like, what are you doing here? I'm like, you let me in. He's just like,
we got you. We got you in.
Probably just like Johnson. So, so Brandon's joining us. This is awesome. We did talk about it's the 30th anniversary of this show.
Yes.
30 years. I've been to every one but one when I had COVID. I know both of you have been to every single one. I know you've been at a lot of them even before you started working here as an avid ice angler and enthusiast. So we're going to jump into the nitty-gritty of 30 years of the St. Paul Ice Fishing Show. I thought, what better than being the 2 guys that are instrumental behind the show, and then the guy who gets to bounce a little bit, make sure electrical works, make sure everyone's happy, probably takes a whole lot of grenades.
He gets the show done, Matt, in other words, right?
Absolutely.
We're the backside of it.
The most important number in my phone sometimes at the show is yours, with all due respect. So, Brandon, before we jump into the ice fishing side, I think it'd be great to let our listeners know a little bit about yourself.
Sure.
Maybe your background, maybe how you got involved working here, and jump on that. So go ahead, man.
Thanks. Brandon Tucker. I'm the Senior Event Manager for St. Paul RiverCentre and XL Energy Center. I've been here 10 years as of this past August. Since I started here, this has been my show. They turned it right over to me and said, here you go. And it's one of out of everything I do, it's one of my top favorite shows that I do. I came to this show before I even was a worker here. And actually, funny story that I bought a clam ice house 2 years after I started, and I think I've used it 3 times because the winter months are our busiest time of year. So my cousin now uses that clam house, and we share it when we can. But when I can get out, I absolutely love it. I grew up in central Minnesota. I hunt, I fish. I grew up fishing on Red Lake with my grandfather and doing all of that, whether it was open water or hard water. Outdoors are my thing and absolutely love it. And so from here, I get to work with all the different clients that come through the building. And if they've got a question about how to get people in or how to get their vendors in, what do their vendors need to know about paying for power, that type of stuff. So I'm the back of house guy that makes sure that anything that your guests are seeing is clean and it's ready to go, and it's not any of the problems stay on my side of the world versus the general public. So,
dude, we can't. I mean, if you're in this venue and you walk the venue, you can clearly tell, Brandon, that this is a very, very, very well-run event. And I can't even imagine. I don't envy anyone who has to undertake the logistics of an event this size. I mean, when this show started, it was just in this hall, right?
Yes, it was.
I mean, it was just here.
Yep.
And now it's expanded into different levels of this area into the Roy Wilkins Auditorium.
Yep.
I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and before I started working here, I came to the show and they had just expanded into the lower Wilkins exhibit hall area, right? So they were, from that standpoint, the seminars were downstairs, came and hung out, and then I went to the hockey game that night afterwards and watched, and had a great time. We spent hours down here, and then we went and grabbed dinner and some beers and had a good time.
It's the way to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, and I know you and I were talking this morning, just having small talk. So, taking a step back from ice fishing, we're going to jump into a ton of ice fishing talk. This venue hosts so many different things. We were talking about wrestling competitions this morning. I know you're a big wrestler. We talked about volleyball. So how many different things? Is there something going on every single weekend?
Pretty much, starting in January, we're kind of in this lull, right? So from the convention center side, we definitely we kind of follow that school year timeline, right? Things pick up in September. Our big, probably our first kickoff for open to the general public event is our Twin Cities Marathon. We do the health expo here and the packet pickup. So any of those runners that are running are coming to this building, and that's 30,000 people over the course of a weekend, and they're doing that in two to 3 days to pick up their packets, right? And then we do conventions upstairs, anything from college conventions to electrical conventions, everything from all that aspects, right? So this January, ice fishing show is really that public, open general public trade show type of thing. Kicks the season off. Next month, January, we have an RV show. We've got the dog show. We've got a business to business event that's a landscaping business that takes the entire complex, and they'll be here for a week. The amazing thing about all of this from a convention center side is nothing's the same. Yeah. It's always different. And I've been here 10 years, and if you would have asked me 10 years ago if I'd still be here, I'm shocked, because the one thing, just because I get bored pretty easily, but there's always something moving and there's always something different. And when you get next door to the arena, that's a whole nother level of stuff, right? You've got the 18,000 fans coming in for hockey. You got 18,000 fans coming in for boys hockey for the state high school league. And so it's constantly changing. February is a crazy month for us as well. We've got everything from the U.S. women's hockey team is coming in to play Canada. We've got a robotics competition happening in Roy Wilkins. We've got high school gymnastics tournament happening in Roy Wilkins, and then the state high school wrestling and on. And then this year we're hosting the NCAA Frozen Four, so we'll have that in April, and it's just a constant thing. So it's a busy time, but it's awesome because you don't ever see the same thing twice, right?
So you have a fun job.
I do, yeah, absolutely.
that sounds pretty darn cool.
Yeah, but it's amazing that this show has really grown this much in 30 years.
Yes.
I mean, I remember the first time the show promoter at that time called me up the first day, and he panicked. He said, "I don't know where we're going to put all the people." That's the honest truth. And then from there it kept growing, and we done seminars. I think it was at an upper level.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
One at the end of I done those with Joe Schmidt from KSTP.
Yeah.
And then from there it just took off.
Yeah. So you were you'll know better than I will, but RiverCentre itself is 25 years old. So you were in the old
building,
the old Civic Center building.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was pretty small.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's why they moved the seminar to a different location.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously you can't say the ice fishing show, other than the ice fishing show, because we know this is your favorite. What are some of the other events that come along that you're like, I really look forward to that? I know you probably have some intimate value with all of them,
right?
But is there a handful that you're like, oh man, it's such and such weekend, I can't wait? From
a sporting event side of things, one of my favorites is the high school gymnastics tournament and then the boys wrestling tournament.
Yeah.
But overall, I do concerts as well. I think the biggest thing about it is, quite honestly, watching it all come in, and it takes all day. It takes us 3 days to set up here, right?
Yeah, we know.
It takes us 3 days to get us all in, and within less than 24 hours, you're all going to be gone.
Yeah.
And then we're going to start all over and put something else. We got a cheerleading competition next weekend, right? So,
are you guys going to be, Dave, Terry, are you going to be in that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I for sure will not.
So yeah, honestly, what I like about it is the consistent change, right? There's always logistics that are going into it. Some of my favorite have been the last minute, we're coming up on election season, some of the last minute stuff that happens with the elections. We get visits, right before COVID, we ended up with Bernie Sanders in Roy Wilkins Auditorium, and the place was packed. And 2 weeks later, the world shut down, right? Yeah. So that, and working in those logistics, the NFL, when the Super Bowl was here, we did the Taste of the NFL fundraiser here, and watching that happen. And one of the things that you don't ever expect is what's going to go wrong, right?
Yeah.
So part of the job is
nothing ever.
Right, never. It's a good day if the escalator doesn't work, right?
I got a few years back at the ice fishing show. We had Eurolard, we were showing people how to hook it. And we left, we come back the next day, and they crawled out of the container. So about 7,000 to 8,000 maggots crawled around, and they crawled in every little hole.
Yep.
So I wonder what event was here when they hatched.
Yeah, right. I don't know. They're probably still roaming around.
They're a little bit bigger, that's all right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah, it's a constant change, and it's awesome.
Yeah. I think that'd be so fun, and I think it's so cool to hear that, walks of life, all ages get to utilize.
Yeah.
I know last weekend was Hmong New Year here,
Yep.
right?
47th anniversary of that.
We have a bunch of friends I know that came out to that, and they're like, this was absolutely awesome. So there's so many things going on. The kids' youth aspect, the tie to the Excel Center, like there's definitely like nostalgia value already with the Excel Center, and it's not that old.
Nope, it's 20, right around 25 years old as well. So
And still, like, to a lot of people, it's like iconic.
yeah,
Like people, I still see like some of our pro staff come in town that maybe don't live in city. They're like, it's the Excel Center.
yep.
And they're just so mesmerized by it. And I think it's so cool. We walked past it last night to go to Tom Reed's to have dinner as a crew. And you're walking right past the Excel and you're thinking like the Wild player. And they'll be here
Yep.
tomorrow.
Tomorrow, 1 o'clock game.
Yeah.
Yep. So downtown will be busy.
Pretty quiet last night, though. I don't think I've ever seen
Yeah.
it as quiet as
Right.
as-
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's starting to come back. We're starting to see people come back downtown, whether it's on a Friday night or a Saturday night for dinner or whatever. So it's nice to see. It's taking a little bit longer since the whole COVID thing, but at the same time, we're getting to see people come back into the building, and we're packed.
Yeah.
24 is just insane between here and the XL, and it's a good thing for me. It means myself and everybody I work with have still got jobs and we're doing what we're doing. But the beauty is we get to provide entertainment to all sorts of people, all walks of life.
Well,
Yeah.
St. Paul is coming more of a destination point now, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Versus
Yep.
some of the other cities,
Yep.
especially with dining and
Yeah.
happenings going on.
Yeah, I feel like St. Paul. I mean, you always have the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, but I feel like in the last couple of years, especially, St. Paul has really blossomed. I don't know if there's some inefficiencies with Minneapolis. Not going to get into any of that, and don't really care. But I feel like St. Paul has gravitated more people to it than it has in the last few years.
Yeah.
Safe to
Yep.
say.
Safe to say.
I really agree with that.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a fun city.
Oh,
A
yeah.
lot of things going on. Look at Grand Avenue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a prime example of what
Yeah.
all goes on in St. Paul.
Mickey's Diner. Dave and I went there.
yeah.
We did a TV gig a few years ago, and only thing open was Mickey's. So Dave and I went over to Mickey's Diner, and I had an omelet the size of this switchboard. Yeah. They brought it out to us, and Dave, I think, got one as well. And we looked at each other, we're like, we probably should have just shared one, but that's iconic. I mean, I'm a Mighty Ducks fan.
Yep.
Love the Mighty Ducks show, and my kids don't know what that is. Shame on them, but I'm like, yeah, that I actually said the other day, we drove past it. I said, yeah, that was in Mighty Ducks, and my kids go, what's Mighty Ducks?
Well, I think that's on you, man.
I'm ashamed, and I think I rolled my eyes, and then I thought to myself, well, yeah, I suppose, but not pretty cool. So I got a couple more questions for you, Brandon.
Sure.
I know you're super busy. You probably got to get going. One, not to put you on the spot, favorite wild,
right.
favorite wild player. Who's your favorite?
Miko Koivu.
Okay, I figured. Yeah, he's a stud.
He was I was a huge fan of his brother,
Yeah.
Saku, as well.
Okay.
Right, played for the Canadians, played for a variety of teams, the Ducks, whatnot. But when we drafted Miko Koivu, that was like my thing. Right, he was so awesome, and I was just actually telling your son. He asked me if I ever got to meet any of the players, and I don't. I mean, they come and go. They're just as human as the next person, right?
Yep.
It's pretty cool to see. But I did come down the stairs going into the arena, into the back of house of the arena, and I turned the corner. And as I turned the corner, he was looking at his cell phone, and we came within 2 inches of running into each other. And it was like, oh my gosh, that was Miko Koivu. And I don't get starstruck very often, but that was, to me, it was. And I was like, excuse me, and he's like, nope, excuse me, and we moved on.
Yeah.
But he's the guy. He's my guy. Yeah. I
I
know there's different opinions of that.
Yeah.
but yeah.
Hockey players don't like me because I always want to drill holes in their eyes.
I suppose. Another question for you.
Sure.
Anything cool and exciting going on in the River Center's future? Is anything happening or anything that we should be aware of, or maybe our listeners may want to put on the radar, something coming down the pipeline?
So I think the big thing is we got, from a general public standpoint, the dog show. If people don't, I know everybody's seen probably the movie that's out there and whatnot, but the Best in Show. But it is really, as an avid hunter, and stuff like that, to be able to go out and watch the dogs do their thing and watch them, it's amazing. The whole floor, the whole building, same floor plan as the ice fishing show, but it's all dogs, right?
That's
and people
crazy.
are bringing their dogs around, and they're all various sizes and forms and shapes and whatnot. And it's one of my favorite. It's right after the new year. It kind of kicks us right into the busy season. At St. Paul, the St. Paul RV show, which is right after that, comes in. That fills in. The whole area is filled with RVs and campers and whatnot, and getting you ready to start thinking about spring. I know we don't want to get rid of the ice too soon, but at the same time, people are getting excited about that next thing, right? So those are the two big things that are going on. And then obviously the NCAA Frozen Four that's happening in April. I mean, it's Hockey Town, state of hockey, right? We got the high school boys hockey, girls hockey in February, the same weekend as the gymnastics tournament. So when the gymnastics tournament's happening in Roy Wilkins, we'll have the girls state high school hockey tournament in the XL. And then the next week will be state wrestling. And then the next week will be boys hockey.
You guys are busy.
Have a week off with a concert in between there, and then we'll have the NCHC championship, and then 2 weeks after that is the NCAA Frozen Four.
Do you ever take a vacation?
Well, I try. honestly, I try to take my vacation in October. I take a
For
week
hunting.
I grouse hunt in October, and then I deer hunt in November up in northern Minnesota in Black Duck.
Yeah.
So,
And I was going to say, I know Brandon has another life. Married, he doesn't live here. I always joke, I'm like, hey, do you live here? Do you sleep here? And I did give him a hard time yesterday because we have the clamping scene. I'm like, here you go, brother. There's a couple cots in here. You can have it. You can crash right here.
You probably sleep right along Matt, right?
I probably should have slept here, but all right, Brandon, I know you got to go, but before you go, if people want to learn about some of these things going on here, where should they go? Is there a place they can go to see a schedule or something?
Yep, the St. Paul RiverCentre.org is the website, and then the XLEnergyCenter.com.
Outstanding.
So, awesome. Well, thanks, guys. I
appreciate it. Thank you so
it.
much, man. I seriously, on behalf of everyone here, not just Clam Outdoors and Ice Team, I know everyone appreciates what you do. You are always the first one here and the last one to leave, and everybody in these walls needs to owe you a sense of gratitude because seriously, I always say it's sometimes the unsung heroes, with all due respect, that you don't know are there that make everything work. Whether it's Brandon, whether it's Lori and Vilma from the show, like they don't always get to see everybody. Everyone doesn't get to see them, but we know it exists. So thanks,
I
man.
appreciate that, but I'm going to shout out to our operations crew and our engineers, our electricians, and all those people that get you the power, that get you make sure the floors are cleaned up, the bathrooms are ready to go, take care of the problems so the general public and the guests and everybody that are here are having a good time and they're not thinking about a bad experience, right? We're here to make memories and make people happy. So,
well, I was telling the technician yesterday during the seminars, this is the only place that is on the ball with all the technical work doing a seminar.
That's great to
and
hear.
I mentioned that, but by far, no comparison to any other show I've done.
Well, I appreciate that. That's awesome to hear. So.
You're a well-run ship.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Clean.
Brandon, thanks, brother.
You
we
bet.
appreciate
Thank you,
you,
guys.
man.
Keep her afloat.
Yeah, you bet.
Yep.
Drill that hole.
I'm going to. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah. Awesome. Well, there you have it, Brandon. If anyone sees this guy walking around during the lunch hour, buy him a chicken strip basket or something, or make sure he's happy. Thanks, bud. I think I'm turning down his mic. You guys, can I still hear you? Say something.
Yeah, I'm fine.
All right, we still got everybody here. Perfect. That's crazy to hear how much is going on here.
What?
Yep. Maybe I turned to talk, Dave.
Busy,
and I turned up. He's number 3. Talk. We're good.
Yes, we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, am I still on there now?
You're on there now. I mean,
But
man,
you know what? It's
crazy.
really amazing how they can get like the RVs in, the wheelhouses in a facility like this.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
A lot of attendees don't really realize the work it takes to put it all together.
I would agree, and I've loved it. And I'm not kidding. Like your bat signal phone call, as someone that is intricately involved in this show, that's the guy. When you need something done, he's the guy you call. You call Brandon, and if he can't do it, which 99% of the time he can't, he will have somebody there right away. And I mean, it is a logistics nightmare at times to run some of these events. I mean, getting everybody in and out, everybody happy, everybody doing what they should do, going where they should go. And I'll tell you what, they do run a well-oiled ship.
Well, can you imagine? Like he said, these exhibitors will be out in 24 hours.
Yeah.
There's probably exhibitors waiting just to come in right after
Yep.
that. you know.
Yep. We joke because, like, see, at Clam, we spend a week or more getting ready for the show. Ready. We're not even here yet. Loading trailers, loading semis, Tom and the crew getting everything dialed. Then we get here for 2.5 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday morning, set everything up. Everything looks pristine. And then I think in 2 hours, we got the entire thing taken down and palletized, ready to leave. Every year I look at it and I'm like, man, it took us 2.5 days to set it up and it took us 2 hours to take it down, but it's awesome. So 30 years of the show, you guys have been involved in all of them. I remember some of the early years as a kid coming in, and I always joked about this. At one point, there was just an ice fishing booth. There wasn't different brands. There's a sign that stuck up, similar to where we are here with Clam, and I remember the sign just said ice fishing.
Yeah.
And within that ice fishing booth, you had whatever brand was around that wanted to play inside this little ice fishing area of the winter sports show. Because I remember coming here with my dad, and there was snowmobiles and track machines and skis and resorts, and that was the bulk of the show. And then there was this ice fishing section. And that's where I remember going, this is cool.
And it wasn't very big back then.
No.
I think I had the only fish house in some of the original ones.
Yeah. Who else was there in the ice fishing section back then? I mean, were there any other brands, or was it just a group of people that wanted to talk about ice fishing?
Well,
I don't remember exactly.
There was a few ice fishing resorts.
Okay.
Center Island, South. There was some people that run dog sleds in the Boundary Waters that had a booth.
Yeah.
And I think there was a auger company that was here too.
An auger company?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing how, the first year, and then it grew a little bit, maybe a little bit slower, but then all of a sudden it just took off too.
Yeah.
Look at today, there's 190 exhibitors here.
Did it take off, you think, when they became the River Center? Because Brandon was saying maybe the first few years that this didn't exist. Was that a catapult, a jumping board for this show?
I don't think so. I think it started to grow even the second year more and more. And then ice fishing was just, I called it at that time the first frontier of fishing.
Yeah.
Where it's just starting to grow and take off. I can remember doing in fact, I mentioned that to some people yesterday. It was at the old Burger Brothers, if you remember that. Mm-hmm. And we done our first official ice fishing seminar. And Bud and Ted said, yeah, let's do one. This was in January. I thought, January on a Saturday. I thought, we're not going to have anybody. It was shocking how many people came. Yeah. And I think that was just the event where people were starting to participate in ice fishing. Yeah. And that kept growing, and the manufacturers jumped on board, and all of a sudden, here we are today.
Do you remember who put on the very first St. Paul? Was it Sinenko?
No, Don Urban American Sports Shows.
Okay.
And they had shows all over the country.
Yeah. Did Sinenko at some point get involved?
No.
I mean, I know Barry was very, very involved in a lot of different shows. I don't know if he ever got involved in this one.
Not
or not
in this show. No.
Okay.
They had it for quite some time, and then they sold it to Good Sam people.
GS Media. Yeah, Velma.
Yes.
I get to talk. The cool thing about Vilma, many of the cool things about Vilma is I get to chat with her all year.
Yes.
We're friends on social media, which is wonderful. And then we get to see her more this time of year. The staff for Good Sam and GS Media, wonderful.
Oh, they are.
They got it going on.
Yeah, they know exactly. You got a question, they have an answer.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no, I'll check or whatever.
Yeah.
They know exactly, especially Velma.
Yeah, and I can tell you, 30 years, I'm doing the math. I'm 40. I was 10 when this started. And I think if I'm not mistaken, Dave, there were some things going on 30 years ago in the ice fishing world that probably catapulted some of the attention. I mean, the modern age of ice fishing was kind of on the forefront. When was the first year of the trap attack?
The first ones were the 92.
So right about the start of this show.
About the same time.
Yeah.
Thorne Brothers was really big into building graphite fishing rods back then, and taking broken rod blanks in them days and turning them into ice rods. And, and they had their seminars out there, and it was just exploding.
Yeah.
The electronics, Vexilars were out there. Like they were FL8s, they weren't even called Vexilars yet.
Yeah.
At the beginning.
Yeah.
And but you know, and being in Minnesota's got a lot to do with that too, because other states and other towns have tried to do this, and it's nothing like this have they ever been to accomplish.
Yeah, this is the Super Bowl. And I remember the earlier years of my experiences, and I know we got a pile of stories we can tell. I remember coming in here, and I remember coming into the Ice Team booth for the first time, and that's when you could register for the newsletter. Remember, I got a hat, I got a pin. I still have the hat and the pin at home. And I remember I was so astonished at, it was probably the way you were educating the consumer, the things that were available. Because when I walked into the booth for the first time, I was probably using a hand auger. I probably had very inferior gear. Loved to ice fish. I remember I rarely caught anything. I remember sitting on a bucket, and that the bobber went down 5 times a day. You were like, we're on them.
That's right.
And then I come and learn from guys like Dave and the Pat Smiths of the world and Terry and a number of people. Oh, is it a spinning reel on a rod? That was pretty sweet. I actually went home, I remember, after a St. Paul ice show. I remember it vividly. I had a cheap little stick for a rod, 2 little dowels, wrapped the line around it, right? That's what we had. I remember taping a spinning reel, cutting the dowels off and taping a spinning reel on this 2-guide rod. And that's what I used for a year, because I'm like, you got to have a reel on your rod now. And that was like my early epiphanies of ice fishing. And it was this show. It was this show that catapulted me to go, there's a much better way of doing this.
Yes, you know, I brought this out of the Stone Age. I mean, it was,
Yeah.
you know, when I started, it was chopping holes in the ice with an ice chisel. And where you went fishing the next day was in that same hole because you chopped it out again.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't no mobility involved.
And Dave, you remember starting out the holes with a 2-foot circle, and you get up with 6 or 8 inches on the bottom?
Oh, yeah, if it was that big. You were just happy to get water to come up.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you know, talking about rods, Matt, too, I can remember, and I haven't even looked at those, but many, many years ago, came out with the first ice fishing fiberglass rod with a reel seat.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, a couple of retailers said, I don't know if it's going to sell. They sold out. They wanted more immediate. We had, I think at that time it was like $18 or $20 for those rods.
Yeah.
But that was really sort of the starting point of the ice fishing changes, if you will, with technology and participation.
Yeah, I remember when the hot rod I had to have when I was a kid was the lightning stick. I think you had a partnership with Berkeley and you were making the Genz. I mean, I remember as a young kid, I mean, I had no money. So I was doing odd jobs. I don't even think I was old enough to drive. And I remember that was the rod to have. I mean, the Thorne Brothers custom stuff, don't get me wrong, to this day still is a phenomenal product, and it was the elite back then. I couldn't afford it.
Right.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't get on the bandwagon. I didn't have the money, but I could save up the $20 or $29.99 for the Genz lightning stick, and I think I owned every single one of them by the time I stopped collecting them. And I say that because I even got like the lake trout one and the one with the bait casting.
Yes.
I don't even think I had a reel for it. But I wanted all of them. To me, it became a collection. I want to get the whole collection. And I think for Christmas one year, my parents got me the one with the trigger. And I remember my dad, I opened it up, and I'm like, yes, I got it. And he's like, you don't even have a reel that goes with that. I'm like, yeah, I know, but it completes my set.
That's so very true. And I suppose, I think these were intended for trout fishing and pike fishing, weren't they?
Yeah, bigger game fishing.
They're almost like a stick.
I was a north suburban city kid. I wasn't going lake trout or pike fishing. I was going to try to catch a bluegill, hopefully. And I remember, but that was just, I wasn't as involved as the two of you on this side of the fence during that heightened, let's call it education, getting out of the Stone Age, right? But I was a spectator. I was an avid angler, and I remember just how proud I was to have some of these tools, the various lures that were coming out. I got my first Vexlar, 9th grade woods class. I built a wood box. I think I saw you post something in Fisherman and doing I'm like, I can do this. And I remember just how proud I was to be like, I got some of these cool tools to catch fish when my buddies were like bucket of dowel rods and little foam corks. So crazy how far it's become.
But Matt, that, what you just said is really the involvement of ice fishing, how it kept growing and growing. You bought this, you've seen this, so you wanted to buy this and buy this, and hopefully it was, helping us catch a lot more fish. And
Yeah,
it did.
I think so.
All this technology has really changed. And look at the clothing that Clam has,
Yep.
or the rods. Some of those rods from Clam are unbelievable.
Yeah. And now today, you walk the. Do you guys even get to walk the show anymore?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet, but I am today, this afternoon. I got to say hi to a few people.
Yeah, and it's funny because my friends that know we're here are all like, "Oh, let me know what's new," or that's a common question on Facebook. What was the coolest thing you saw? I'm like, I don't know, a chicken strip basket in the bathroom. Like it's funny when you start to work these shows, and I know the both of you. Like I don't envy either one of you when you try to walk around this show, because I can imagine with Dave Genz and Terry Tuma walk these aisles, you don't make it 20 feet without getting stopped by 5, 6, 7, 10 different people. It's I haven't walked either. But you speak about technology. We are so spoiled nowadays.
Yeah, we really
I really
are.
believe that.
Yeah.
We have so many cool tools to go fishing and get the job done that it's almost, I don't want to say it's easier, but at times it's pretty easy to find and catch fish.
Oh, yeah. It really is. And, I think one of the biggest questions that I've had at this show, well, even open water fishing, Matt, is what's new? What's going to be the new step in technology? Where are we going to go? What's going to happen to the species of fish, with all the equipment that we are able to obtain?
Yeah, it's nonstop. I had a fun story. Years ago, I think it was 2012, it was 12, 13, I had a memory pop up on Facebook today. Jimmy Kleinsasser would work our booth. You guys remember Jimmy from the Vikings? He helped us. And it was so funny because Jimmy came into the show, he clam jersey on, going to work the booth, hang out next to Dave and sign autographs, do whatever. And Jimmy calls, and he's like, they're not letting me in. I'm like, what do you mean they're not letting you in? And they're like, I don't have a pass. I'm like, you're Jimmy Kleinsasser. You're in a clam jersey. He's like, they're not letting me in. And God bless him, like that's their job, right? So I go up there and I'm like, all right, man, he's good. Here's his pass, whatever. We go on the escalator, and we're coming down. So here's the guy, just retired from the NFL, Pro Bowl guy, stud Vikings player, adored by everybody in here and in the Dakotas. We're coming down the escalator, and he starts rattling off people's names. Dave Genz, Terry Tuma, and he's like, are these guys, and he's telling me, are they all going to be here? And I'm like, well, yeah. And he's like, you think I can meet them? So like it's so cool to see this guy on a pedestal in the sports world, which, as we know, is massive in our country. He just wants to meet these ice fishing pros, and that's all he wanted. He wanted to be an ice pro and be one of the guys. And we're coming down, and I'm like, yeah, we can meet. And I think Dave was sitting at a table. We had a stack of pictures that Dave was signing, and Jimmy wasn't sitting down next to him. He's like, well, what do I say to him? I'm like, hi? And to me, I remember walking down, and here I am at the time I was in my 20s, played football, loved it, and I'm like, this guy is an idol to a lot of people. And here he just wanted to meet the ice fishing pros. That was what made him tick and come to these shows, was the brotherhood, the camaraderie of this industry, and I'm like, we got something special here.
Yeah, well, I think so often, we always think, like you're mentioning him, for instance, that they're sort of a stand out from the rest of the group. But I can remember taking quite a few Viking players out. Oh, this was open water fishing, Matt.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you just said. It was it was just fun.
Yeah.
There was no uppity, attitude.
None.
There was none. It was just fishing.
Ice Station Berkeley was another one of the early events.
Yeah.
And Ken Herbeck was to that, and same thing. I ended up sitting in a fish house with him and Laudner, the catcher at that time, and BSing about ice fishing. They didn't want to talk about baseball. They wanted to talk about ice fishing.
Yeah, Herbeck is a big
outdoorsman.
Yeah, we've done a lot with Kent over there.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Hunting, fishing, he does all that stuff.
In fact, he fishes a lake not too far from our house. So.
Yeah, what lake is that?
South Metro.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah, there's only 2 down there.
Right.
We're safe. This show, it's amazing. I think of it as this. Obviously we're here representing Clam and Ice Team, and we all understand we work in the industry. A big part of our job at these shows is to sell product, right? To put stuff in people's hands, to make people happy, to give them a better experience. But to me, probably one of my favorite things about the St. Paul Ice Show is probably it's a reunion. It really is. And it's not just a reunion, I think, for us, for our Clam family, but I have friends that wear all the different shirts, all the different hats. You know, I mean, I think we find ourselves fist bumping, or in Dave's bluegill bump, or handshaking or hugging constantly at these shows.
Well, you're exactly right. I think, especially more so this show, Matt, I think it's just, it's a family. You know, of all these people that come year after year, you recognize them. Maybe they're your neighbors, or they heard you on TV or radio or something.
Yep.
They come in, they say hi. You know, a lot of people yesterday and they come in. A lot of them will just talk about ice fishing. Some just want to just talk in general.
Yeah. I mean, it is, and that's the thing too. Is people come here eager to learn. So we talked about Stone Age to New Age education. I don't think that's slowed down.
No.
I don't think people are like, oh, we know it all, we're done.
No.
I think they still come to these shows wanting to learn. Am I wrong?
Oh, no, you're
definitely
100% right. Yeah, you can tell, and not complaining or bragging yesterday, but Matt, I had about 45 minutes of questions after the seminar.
Yeah,
And
I heard the seminars were packed yesterday.
Yeah, they were. We had standing room at the first one.
Yeah.
But that just says people are still, young and old. We always think it's going to be the young generation. It is not. It's, anglers of all ages, men and women, they have all questions, and you have to try to answer them the best you can possibly. Yeah. And if they're looking for a product, a specific product, you can mention that to them. But there again, too, I really believe that you should never criticize another company's products.
The Ice Castle has definitely helped grow the sport too, because these people they were summertime campers. They went to the campgrounds with their travel trailers, and now they've bought one that goes down on the ice.
Yep.
And now clamping is coming in where people are starting to go on a camping trip. And some unique things about going on a camping trip in the wintertime is it's free.
Yeah.
There's no fees to go to camp set up on the lake.
Yeah.
We just got to get better at removing the garbage and take it back with us and don't leave it out there, because there's nobody coming behind you to pick it up.
Yeah. And the cool thing about clamping is, I don't know about you, but I don't catch many fish when I'm camping in the woods. You can literally have a line in the water with a rattle reel or whatever. And I mean, I think it's awesome. And it's funny you mentioned the Ice Castle. So a few weeks ago, excuse me, at the Hardwater Expo in Blaine, I was there, and Tara, my wife, and my daughter, they came by for a couple hours to look around and check things out. You know what caught her eye? Yeah, the big hard-sided shacks. She started walking through them, and she came in, and she's like, some of them fish houses are nice. I'm like, yeah, we sell a whole bunch of them. She's like, no, the ones out in the parking lot. I'm like, oh boy. And she's like, yeah, they're like, she's like, I could hang out in one of those. And what got her attention, Dave, was the year-round use.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, I have a tough time justifying an ice castle in the winter for my style of fishing. How I guide, where I go, my lifestyle, my schedule. I just don't see myself using it a ton in the wintertime, right? Maybe for events, for the fishing league, things like that. But now you look at it as, now I got a year-round tool, where in the summer, you get one big enough to sleep my whole hoodlum, my whole 6 people in my family. Well, now you're kind of onto something. And I think these drop-down fish house companies, they really have picked up on that. I mean, I think if you go look at them, not many of them are without an AC unit. Where a few years ago, that was an ask add-on.
Right.
Now I think that they all just pretty much have them on, and they figured it out. And, some of them are $40,000, $50,000. But I can promise you that's a fraction of the price of an RV.
Well,
that can't go on the ice and you can't use for ice fishing.
Well, I think another thing, too, with the wheelhouses is that it's amazing how many families are out on the weekend. Mm-hmm. They got grills outside. They're just having a great, great time. A lot of friends, they form a circle or next to each other, and it becomes a social event.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes fishing is secondary. Catching fish, I say, is secondary.
Yeah. I think we should talk a little bit about the history of this show, tell some stories. Both of you have a million more than I do. I think it'd be fun to kind of reminisce on some of the years, some of maybe your favorite years that you had, some of the memories that really stand out, whether it's a specific booth, a person you see, or people you see all the time. Maybe we spend a few minutes just kind of jaw-jacking about some of these cool St. Paul Ice Show memories. I don't know if either of you want to start or have something right off the bat that really stands out.
Well, I think the first one was, as I mentioned earlier, Matt, was getting a phone call from the owner of the American sports shows, say, he was panicking. I don't know where we're going to put all the people.
Yeah.
That was the first start. Then right then and there, we sort of knew what was going to happen, and then it just grew from there. And then I think from there, it was the seminars. They were unbelievably well attended. And I can remember one we done with Joe Schmidt, and it was Jigging Joe and Tackle Terry.
I mean, Dave, from an ice team perspective, I mean, you probably have stories you can't tell.
Yeah, not on the air, right?
Yeah. But I mean, I look at like the Trap Attack days. Like, the ice team booth at this show. With all due respect, that was the place to be.
Because we put on these shows across the country. It wasn't a big place like this, but when we did them Trap Attacks in major cities across the country, we set up all of our stuff in a mall or something, and educated the people all across the country, and that influenced them, people coming to the show too, because we started it and they come here to see it all.
Yeah.
That anything in ice fishing is here.
Yeah. So do you think? I mean, I would love to have a little more intel, and that's something Vilma maybe has, and I'm sure she does. I mean, how do you think this show's grown in terms of demographic? Do you think at first it started with a lot of people around St. Paul? Clearly, we know now that it's grown to where you may talk to the next guy that says, I'm from Washington. I mean, I think this show has caught eye. It's a sought-after show for anyone across the ice belt, right? Wouldn't you say?
Oh, I think you're definitely right, because, it really, ice fishing started out, I really feel, as far as the show itself and the participation, really started in the Twin City area. As far as getting attention, not as far as participation, but along with that too, when I give door prizes away, Matt, I usually go with who drove the furthest.
Yeah.
And we have people from Texas, Pennsylvania,
good ice fishing in Texas,
Montana, Colorado, and Manitoba.
Oh,
so
my gosh.
they really come a long way. So we too often think it's so centralized. But look at the ice fishing they do in Colorado.
Yeah.
Or New York.
Yeah.
And Dave can speak to New York.
Yeah.
It's people fly in to here, and their wives go shopping at the Mall of America, and they come to the ice show. They'll buy a 3-day pass, and they'll come for 3 days.
Yeah.
And enjoy every moment, because they get to talk ice fishing with people.
Yeah. And the cool thing about it, I'll admit, before I started working for Thorne Brothers and then Clam and had to work the show, I was that guy that came twice, and I think some years I came all 3 days. My dad and I would come and go all 3 days because there's so much to look at. And then both have mentioned the seminars. They're different every day.
Yes.
So you can come on a Friday and listen to Pro A, B, and C. On Saturday, D, E, F, and G. On so you really can get a personalized feel each day. And the one thing, sometimes, depending on the day and the mood of the retailers, the discounts change. So sometimes you come at the right time at the end of a Saturday, end of a Sunday, and you catch that retailer in the right mood, and they go, tell you what, because I'm in the spirit of selling right this second, I'm going to take another $30 off that.
And
so,
even yesterday, Matt, I heard a couple of comments. We're going to come on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
The exhibitors don't want to take anything home.
Yeah. And that's funny. But I think this show, at least this year, I think they came right out of the gate.
Yes.
Hard selling, going crazy. And I mean, you're going to get a good deal at a show. That's one of the reasons you attend. You pay to get in, you pay to park, but these retailers do a really good job understanding that I want to give our consumer, our participants, our fans a value. So you're never going to come into these shows and pay full retail. Never. Yeah. I've never heard of that ever existing.
No, I have to agree with you. And the other thing too is, it's a great opportunity for these people, the attendees, avid ice fishermen, novice ice fishermen, to come and look at all the equipment that's available, like getting rods in your hands, looking at the different type of houses, lures. You can go on, clothing, you can go on and on with, and it really becomes sort of I think the whole show, Matt, not only by the purchasing, but it's sort of an educational aspect.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, you walk to any of these booths, you're probably going to get some level of education.
Some kind of how-to tip.
Yeah.
How to use this product, how to use it, and you need to know that just to go buy a product. And I think we've all done that, and you don't know how to use it.
Yeah, the product's worthless.
And here, you get educated on how to use the things too.
Yeah.
I'm spending my time sitting over there talking about silkies. There's probably a lot of people listening to this don't even know what a silky is.
Yeah.
But we're showing that you can trim them, you can make them look like almost anything, multicolors, and it's and it's amazing the interest. So they oh yeah, I heard about them, but You know, they don't look
You can
like much
see how
until
it
you get them
works
in the
now.
tank, and then it's a whole new picture they have in their head. We're going to try that.
Yeah, I see Dave over there jigging away, going crazy, all kinds of lures, and that is spot on. I mean, you know, when I used to come to these shows as a consumer, I don't think I ever bought much. My dad and I don't think we did. I mean, if we did, honestly, we'd shop, we'd look for things we wanted, and usually we would end up at a Gander Mountain a week down the road and buy what we wanted because we didn't want to carry it through the show. I mean, looking around, clearly people are buying stuff, but we would come there for that point, Dave. Like, we'd come there to see what's new, talk to people, try things out, ask the how-to questions, how this works, how that works. I remember getting a bag full of brochures and different things, and maybe DVDs or decals or stickers or just the excitement the industry brought. To me, that was the thing I remember the most was 100%, not necessarily the deal I got. It turned into some of the memories I made and some of the friends I met, you know, in the same, like even here working the booth, we all see it. How many people do you see at the St. Paul show that you only see at the St. Paul show? I have a lot of people that's
yes.
the only time I see them once a year.
Yes, yep, you're exactly right. It's almost like, you know, for some, you know, even maybe they're not looking for product to buy, Matt, but what they're doing is just coming to the show just to visit. It's almost like an outing, like a family outing. You know, they're just strolling around, they're visiting with people, visiting with the display people. It's a totally different attitude than many, many different shows. This is sort of a really, shall we call it, an elite family, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, just these people are ice fishermen.
They come back year after year. I had several people that had a picture of 10 years ago. They were at the show and they had a picture taken with me. Now they got their grandson along now, and they want another picture. You know, and they've saved that old one all this time. They could find it on their phone.
Yeah.
And that's only going to grow as technology moves on with our phones. And
yeah. I saw a picture of, well, you know, Wayne Peterson, he's on our pro staff, and Dalton works at Clam, and his brother Dustin. I saw Wayne post a picture. It was 2008, 15 years ago. Dave's in the middle, and Dalton and Dustin are on each side. They're all about the same height. Then he posted a picture he took yesterday. Either Dave shrunk or
a little bit.
There's Dustin, and there's Dalton, and there's Dave smiling. And I chuckled. And I chuckled for two reasons. One, the sentimental value, right? That's so cool. But two, Dave's shirt back then, and you know, embroidered, collared polo.
Yeah.
Where now we have these beautiful sub-dyed stuff from G2 that make us look just next level. You know, we look like professionals. We might not always be one, but we look like them. Where I was chuckling, so I'm like, oh, I remember the days of the embroidered shirts and how precious that shirt was because of the time it took someone to collect the logos
and sew them on.
Yes, that you would bring that home and cherish that in your closet.
My closet is full of that. One closet.
Yes, and
you just can't throw it away.
Yeah, but that I got. Yeah, I mean, I looked at that little collage that Wayne put out this morning. And I'm like, that's what it's about.
Yeah,
that's what it's about. Though Dustin and Dalton came here 15 years ago, literally as kids, to enjoy the show. And by golly, look at them now. They're rubbing elbows with you guys with the jersey on.
Yeah, but you know,
that's so cool.
It's amazing too, Matt. Even looking at the aisles with the attendees here, it's just not a male environment anymore. You got families here, you got kids here, a lot of teenagers here walking with a buddy, which is, you know, yesterday I noticed quite a few youngsters, you know, checking out different rods and reels and.
Yeah, it is definitely a family affair.
Yes, it is.
And Wham has been, it's got a lot more women into ice fishing right now.
Yeah,
that's growing and growing too, and amazing. I probably get more ladies that come up and have good questions than guys right now.
Yeah, and Wham's wonderful. They got a booth upstairs, Women Anglers of Minnesota. Terry mentioned kids. I mean, I think there's kids from the ages of stroller to guys and gals that are in their 90s. And that's the beauty of ice fishing is I don't think it's an age-specific sport. It's not something where it's like a football or a sport with a ball, right? Where at some point, let's be honest, like we're just done playing it. Or you're done playing it at all remotely well. Where I think with fishing, with age, you get better. You gain more knowledge. You understand the sport better. Like, And I think it's wonderful to sit and see that. And the families come up and want the photos. And Clam, I think it's cool. One thing I've always loved about the Clam booth, one of many, is the logo wear. We always bring exclusive stuff. And one thing we've done in the recent years is stuff for kids, for toddlers, for babies.
But you're right with the ice fishing environment. You know, Dave, I think you probably would agree. It was really when we started ice fishing, which is many years ago, was a male environment.
Yeah.
You know, and I think at that time it was just dressing up. You almost were competing with, can I stay out on the ice with the cold weather than catching fish?
Yeah.
You know, you dressed up with unbelievable amount of clothes, and now look at today. Now it's
Minimal.
whole family.
Yeah. Yeah, you got stuff for everybody.
I joke about when I was, single digits in age, my dad would dress me up. I had these big flight boots. They were from the Air Force, but they were big enough that
They
I
were
could
white, right?
No, this is before them even.
Okay.
But my shoes would fit right inside of them, and I had this big coat that my uncle had brought back from the Navy. So I'd be sitting on a bucket with these big boots on and this coat wrapped around me, and I decided that's why I'm so short, because I had all this heavy stuff on. I couldn't grow.
And it is amazing how things. I mean, I'm just looking across the aisle here. Our fans can't see it. Snow Dog's been a partner of Ice Team now for a few years, and I'm looking at Max sitting here talking about a bike. You got an electric powered bike that I know Dave right away is probably like, I'd stud the tires on that and take that out for a spin. But just the advancements in this sport. And I think that's one of the beauties of these shows is the newness factor. And I mentioned about 30 minutes ago on this podcast that I always get the question from people on social media, hey, what's new there? Like, that has to be the number one question at a show,
no doubt
is
about it.
What's new, and what better place in a show to see all that?
Well, Darwin, that can tell all of us how much interest there is in ice fishing. What's new?
Mm-hmm.
If we didn't have that question, Matt, I don't know how big the show would be. But it's really what's new, and then can I buy it?
Yep. And I think shows like this too give, I don't know the best word, not the underdog, but they give those smaller mom and pa fielding shops a place to call home. The 10 by 10 booths get as much attention as the 100 by 100 foot booths, and that's when I think some consumers come to this show for that. I think a lot of consumers already, with all due respect, know Clam.
Yes.
They know Clam makes fish houses and ice armor and CPT, and they know what a drop kick is, and they know, what a Pinhead Pro is, and they know about this, and they know about that. But I think a lot of consumers come to the show to see a lot of the other stuff.
What somebody's dreamed up sitting in their ice castle.
Exactly. Stuff that they don't get fed mainstream constantly by the larger marketing brands, right?
Yeah.
And I think for me, even to this day, that's the excitement factor for me when I walk around the show is, again, answering that exact same question, what's new?
Well, that's right.
And we talk about it back at Clam usually a week or so. Hey, do you see anything cool? Like, see anything different that you... And there's always 4, 5, 10 things that we're like, oh, yeah, did you see that one booth upstairs and that catches your eye? And you're like, oh, that's
when you ask
cool.
yourself, why didn't I think of that,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, there's a guy right now, I know he was at the Blaine show, that has the net. He puts the net down the hole, the same diameter to your hole, so when you catch a fish, it flips up, you can pull your fish up. And at first I thought to myself, like, well, that's kind of gimmicky. But then you just sit and think about it, and you're like, if you have a hard-sided shack, and you're in Lake of the Woods, Red Lake, Mille Lacs, and that's
For a
your
few
thing.
days, yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest. The only time I ever get nervous fighting a quality fish is 100% at the hole.
Yeah.
Always.
Yes.
And I look at something like that, I'm like, I could see a value in that. And here's a guy who probably, like Dave, you've made so many things in your garage over the years, right, that have obviously come to fruition. That's what he did. Sat in his garage, said, I'm going to try to come up to a solution for a problem, and I'm going to come up with this. And I'm like, I see stuff like that. I'm like, that's what keeps things like this exciting for a lot of people.
Well, I think, you're exactly right. Like, with some of the hard side or the wheelhouses, some of the things that they've done with, protecting the holes with, instead of the round plastic.
Yeah, the catch cover stuff.
The catch cover stuff. And then now with the banking, where you don't have to bank with snow, propane warming blankets, generator blankets. I mean, there's so many things out there that I think so often we're not even aware of till you come to the show.
Yeah. Tailgater, I think, does the whole You can watch TV in your fish house, connect with an hand warmer. Yeah, Dave's got a hand warmer in his hand, which is such a hot, no pun intended, item that I can't even get one. A couple weeks ago, I hopped on the Clam website as an employee of the company. And I'm like, I'm going to buy a few, because I always wear a hand muff around the front of my chair, and I throw those little Mr. Heater throwaway hand warmers in there.
Yes.
Because I don't like fishing with gloves. I should know better because I've frostbitten my hands so many times. And I still do because I'm a moron. And I'm like, I'll get 4 of those hand warmers, and they're gone. Sold out already.
It's amazing, though, versus what you're talking about, the throwaways, versus the regular hand warmers. And I've had, I'm sure Dave has too, but how many times we have frostbitten our fingers especially, and man, you pay for it after that. Keep your hands warm.
Yeah, I think I have stock in Band-Aids and super glue by the time the ice fishing season is over.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm my own worst enemy. And yeah, Ice Armor by Clam is a brand of our brand that I work for and make all kinds of gloves, but I continue to take my gloves off and fish all the time. We all do it,
Yes.
But that little hand warmer there that Dave's got in his hands, I mean, the retailers all have them. And we're just out at Clam. And how it works is like we supply all the product. When the product's sold out through us, doesn't mean the product's gone. It just means we don't have it. But Thorne Brothers, Reed's, Marine General, they have it. And what a great idea to throw in the pocket of your Ice Armor coat, your Blackfish Gale, your hand muff. It's not only warm your hands up, but Dave can top off his phone too.
In fact, I charged my completely dead iPhone. I charged off of one of these, and it took 2/3 of the power.
Yeah,
it was a totally dead phone. So
I would grab one if anyone's listening and they want a hand warmer, and you see one on a shelf at a it's safe to say, it better end up in your cart.
Yeah, but
I learned something yesterday from Liz, one of our pro staff, is that. This is where you want to put something warm. That's what keeps your fingers. Yeah. It's not here. I always thought it was back here. It's here.
Yeah, it's probably blood flow or something.
That's the blood flow to your fingers, and you can fish without gloves.
Yeah.
So I figure I'll just use one of our socks or something to pull over the top of this and give it a try.
Yeah. They are nice. I mean, so many products. I mean, we could have an entire podcast on what's new from Clam Outdoors this year. I mean, what are some of your guys' favorite products in the Clam? It doesn't even need to be a new one. Maybe we chat a little bit of product here since we're at a show and we're at the show environment, and we have, I mean, this is probably going to air after the show is done. It will, but still, what are some cool things that you guys are excited about for this ice fishing season?
Well, I think one question area that I've had a lot of that, not only this year, but I'm going to do a lot more experiment with the straight drop.
Okay.
Reel. I've had quite a few questions about that yesterday. Should I use it? What depth should I use it? How do I spool the line on? And I'm just going to get more involved in that. It's not a new item, but it's something I want to pursue. The other thing, too, is with fishing rods, I know we all talk about the real fast action rods for crappies and sunfish. And last year I started to experiment with a couple of stiffer rods, and I had better hookups.
Okay.
So I'm going to do a little bit more in that area. So, just not new, but keep on experimenting until you find something that really works. Then you can talk about it on the podcast. Yeah.
So you're focusing on rods and reels.
More so than and lures, of course, always. But
I think that's a cool statement. Here's a guy, Tackle Terry Tuma, who has ice fished for decades and decades, still trying to improve his ice fishing game.
Well,
but that's cool.
Yes. Well, even at the seminars, I say it: open water and ice fishing. Every day you go out, you should learn something.
Yeah.
And keep on experimenting, keep on trying. And then what I tell them, if I find something or stumble on something that works very well, I'll actually go home in my office and write it down.
Sure.
And then I'll do it for 3, 4, 5 time frames. And if it keeps on working, then I'll start to talk about it.
Makes sense. What about you, Dave?
Well, product-wise, I'm really excited with the new Masaga. Is that the right name for the reel?
Yeah, the Masago.
With the improved drag system on it, the larger drag washers and the larger arbor on the spool. It's such a smooth reel. You got the drag set extremely tight, but it starts out so smooth.
Yeah.
And they're going to be on all my summer rods this summer too. Them reels are.
Yeah. And tackle.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's
we got so much new stuff. It's hard to keep up. It's hard to, talk about the pinhead as being old. I mean, that's still top line stuff. But now with the Tika Flash, it's that's the new thing, and
Yeah.
You get more questions about that.
Yeah. Tika Flash, you can't find probably your favorite size and color at the show now, and it's halfway through Saturday. I think they're gone on some of the popular sizes and colors. So,
But the Tika Flash does provide a lot of movement, a lot of flash that I think people for sunfish and crappie is going to be a very fine tool to use.
oh, it is.
But
It
to
is.
come to the show here, we've got people who, it's not just tying it on your line, it's technique.
Yeah.
How do you make that work? How do you make that blade flip?
Yeah.
So and you can learn that. We got people on tanks, and they're showing the little thing it takes to make these, like the pinhead that's the first lure I ever had confidence in without bait.
Yeah.
Until that, I always felt if I had any kind of a spoon on the old Swedish pimples, I had to put some meat on that hook.
Yeah.
But when the pinhead came around, all of a sudden we didn't need bait anymore.
Just worked.
But it's still a technique. It's not just tie it on and these fish are going to rush in and eat it. And
Yeah.
you can learn them techniques here at the show.
Yeah, yeah, great learning experience. I mean, and again, that we're finding ourselves developing new techniques, new ideas, talking to each other, what works for you, what doesn't work. I mean, I look at our breadth of pro staff here, and we're always networking and talking during the downtimes, and I think it's wonderful because they're learning from each other.
Yes.
And if you're listening to this, you might hear some background noise. We're at a show. I mean, we're not filming this in a back secluded room in a conference center. Right?
Right.
We are on the show floor at the St. Paul Ice Fishing Show on Saturday, so it's busy. I mean, your view watching is pretty stagnant. You can't see much, but I'm looking at hundreds of people walking around right now enjoying this show, having a good time.
Talking about new products and so forth, and what I've yesterday especially, but not only, was braided line for ice fishing.
Sure.
That was just unbelievable question. Do you use it? I use it. Several people told me
Yeah.
I use braided line.
Yeah, no stretch.
Without any kind of a fluorocarbon leader.
Yeah.
Starting right straight to it. That's one area I think that's really starting to grow in ice fishing, and I think we're going to see it continually growing.
Yeah, especially I think for your walleye type stuff, your deep water walleye applications. Like I've never been a huge believer in the braided line for the panfish stuff, and that's my personal preference. But in the walleye world, when you got to be in 30 feet of water and that fish comes up and just bumps it and you got to whack them now, I think braided line's wonderful. And I think Jeff Anderson, who we all know Jeff, he's a big advocate for braided line, and he does walleye fishing, lake trout fishing, pike. But yes, he does the fluorocarbon leader, and he crushes. I've been schooled by him when we've gone walleye fishing where he's got the braided line, and I'm thinking that's got to make a difference. And if you ask him, he's like 100%. Like my reaction time, because there's no stretch, is so much quicker, especially
definitely.
deeper water stuff.
Yes.
I can really whack that fish quick when I feel that bite.
Well, the biggest walleye I ever caught was on braided line, Matt.
Sure.
So yeah, I use it for the real small diameter lines. I've been using it for sunfish and crappies.
Okay. Perfect.
But softer tip rod.
Yeah,
little
makes
looser
sense.
drag. I really
It does work a lot better in an ice castle than it does out on when it's below zero.
Freezes to itself.
Yeah.
That's always been my issue because I'm a hole hopper. I don't sit down much. And on a warmer day, sure, but on the colder day, it will freeze to itself. That is one of the disadvantages of braided line, but it has many advantages. The summertime, I don't know any one of us that's probably not fishing some level of braided line.
No.
Clearly, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And
That's
the
right.
ice fishing companies, to Terry's point, they're figuring it out more and more. They're making better braided lines, and some of them have coatings on them so they don't freeze up as much. So the technology, as we've talked about, is advancing. So, we've been talking for an hour and 3 minutes here, according to my timer here, and I think probably should wrap it up here a little bit and continue to talk to some of these awesome consumers. So before we cut loose on this podcast, one, I think we should thank the venue, Brandon, Vilma, Lori, everyone that's been involved. The past that has been involved in 30 years of a great show. It's amazing. I think this show single-handedly has brought thousands of people into the sport of ice fishing.
I don't think there's any question about that at all, Matt. I think it's just amazing. And you can tell that some of these attendees are probably not real avid anglers, but I bet you when they go home, they're going to say, I think I'm going to go do a little bit more
I'm
ice
gonna do
fishing
this
this
a
year.
little more. So
Quite a few people that I just moved to Minnesota.
Yeah.
And they're coming down and getting caught up. They're not starting in the Stone Age. They're starting at modern time with modern equipment, and they're going to become successful ice anglers.
Yep.
Not everybody skis or goes ice skating, Matt.
I know, right? I know. So few parting words. If each of you had something to send off our audience with, what would it be? It can be a thank you, it can be whatever. Go ahead, Dave. Why don't you start us off?
Well, to come down to one of these shows and learn the newest stuff, this forward-facing sonar.
Yeah.
If you got any questions about it, this is where you're going to get them answered. You're not going to get them answered properly on Facebook or whatever, because you don't know if the guy really knows that's answering it. Here, experienced people are here with electronics, and will make sure you know how to use it when you leave.
Yep. Perfect. Terry?
Well, thank you, Matt, for doing the podcast. Hopefully all that information is going to help.
Yeah.
And I think the next thing is pass on the ice fishing to the next generation.
Yeah. Take a kid out, take a buddy out,
right.
and it could even be a friend.
That's right.
Someone new.
That's right. Or take a disabled veteran out, or
Yeah.
whatever. There's a lot to be said. Pass it on.
Yep, pass it on. So, I love it. I can tell you right now with 100% certainty, Dave and Terry are a big reason that this ice fishing industry ticks. You've been here since day one at this show. You've helped pioneer this. There are thousands of people every year that come to the show, probably because you guys are here. True legends of the sport, can't thank you enough. Blessed to have you on the podcast. Very, very humbled to be here in the 30th year of the event and be a part of this and see what's going on. I'm excited to talk to more people today. I know we're going to. We got more work to do. We got more than a half a day left on Saturday. We got Sunday. It's not done. And then you know what? It's really cool. We get to go ice fishing.
That's right. And we got next year, too, to look forward to, right, Matt?
Yep.
On Monday, I'll be ice fishing.
Dave will be setting hooks on Monday. I'm hoping to get out on Thursday, and away we go. So, Terry, Dave, thank you so much. Can't thank you enough. Yeah. So, another episode of the Ice Team Podcast coming at you at the St. Paul Ice Fishing and Winter Sports Show, the 30th anniversary of the St. Paul Ice Fishing and Winter Sports Show. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.